Welcome back, Kiss Army, to another episode of We Are One. You wanted the best and you got the best, the hottest channel in the land. We Are One. Here I am and here you are. Welcome to the Psycho Circus, Kiss Army, and welcome to another edition of We Are One, where Paul Stanley has been taking shots at his former Kiss bandmates Ace Frehley and Peter Criss essentially ever since they left the band, and in Peter's case even when he was still in the band. As recent as 2000, Paul seems to just continue to badger Peter, and that has continued in his latest book, Backstage Pass, where he discussed the current status of his relationship with former Kiss bandmates Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. This is an article from Ultimate Classic Rock titled "Paul Stanley Says Peter Criss Has Always Been Negative." Quote, "When he says it's nice to have Ace back in a larger capacity in his life due to the shared magic of their history, he's not all that complimentary towards Peter Criss, suggesting that the drummer has a bad attitude that prevents him from enjoying life. Quote, Peter unfortunately is a different story. I don't think Peter has any life. He seems consumed by some kind of reality that his wife tells him. He has always been negative and always maintained an us against them mentality. I don't want that in my life." Paul says that this issue isn't about having differences, because I'm sure Ace and I have differences. It's Peter's overall sense of anger and resentment and feeling like the victim. He needs to acknowledge his participation and then change things. I think Peter's life is probably very one-dimensional, uninteresting, unstimulating, which is a result of seeing the world negatively and seeing everyone from the band members to the hotel service people as disrespectful. He concludes by stating, "That's not a world anyone should live in, and I don't want to be a part of that." He then compares life to the game of dodgeball. Avoid getting knocked out while watching those around you get hit. Backstage Pass was Paul Stanley's follow-up to the 2014 memoir, Face the Music. So, Paul here clearly has not had a conversation with Peter that has amounted to anything more than probably 60 to 65 seconds since the Rock Hall. And with that being the case, Paul is very unaware of how Peter is currently. All of these assessments that Paul makes about Peter, you can find the exact same assessments in Paul's Face the Music book when he's talking about the Psycho Circus tour on. So, Paul has been taking shots at Peter for like 24 years at this point, since essentially the second leg of the reunion tour. And Peter, if you have done any recent interviews with him, if you've watched his One Last Criss tour show that he did in Australia and in New York, Peter seems to be in ridiculously high spirits. If you watched recently this year, he put out him singing "Don't You Let Me Down" to his track. He literally just played the MP3 but sang along with himself. And Peter seems to be in high spirits, so I don't know when Paul's actual last conversation with Peter was, but I will give Paul the credit in saying that yes, at one point Peter did seem to be like this, but Peter does not seem to be like this now. Peter seems to be in much high spirits now. He seems to be very happy with Gigi. He seems to be very happy promoting his breast cancer awareness thing and being an ambassador to that. And it seems that Peter, as far as we know, has a canned album in the can that we're just waiting to see if that will ever get released. But I mean, Peter is definitely not as negative as he once was. I mean, the man wears a rosary around his neck at this point, and he says that that is one of the most important things to him at this point. And I really don't think Paul has an actual understanding of where Peter is in life ever since 1996, because all of these comments just result back to what Paul said about Peter in 1996, and it just seems that Paul hasn't really had a conversation with Peter. Where, you know, as Gene, when he was doing his Vault promo, had conversations with Peter and had him come out to one event, and Peter seemed to be in really high spirits then too. So Paul hasn't actually had a conversation with Peter, and he probably didn't even speak to him much at 2014 when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I really don't think any of us should put any stock in what Paul has to say about Peter in regards to his current standing. Maybe if you want to talk about Peter in 1998, yeah, that's fine. But anything now, I wouldn't put any credence into what Paul says, and I'd put a lot more stock into what Gene and Ace have to say about it. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Talk to me. All I want is a little conversation. All right. Thank you, Kiss Army. Remember, God gave rock and roll to you, and God bless you.
God bless you all.